In the case decided in 2015, I'm referring to the case of Bartolome versus SSS, not yet given in the bar, not in 2016, not last year. The SSS denied the death claim of the natural mother of the deceased SSS member. And the reason for denying the claim was during the minority of the member, he was adopted. Okay? So yun, sabi ng SSS, ang beneficiary niya, si adoptive parent. But take note that during the minority of that SSS member, the adoptive parent died. Now, what is the legal effect of the death of the adoptive parent during the minority of the adopted? It restores parental authority. Okay? Supreme Court said the natural parent was entitled to the benefit. Number one, because the law is non-discriminatory. It makes no distinction between natural parents and adoptive parents. Number two, the adoptive parent died during the minority of the SSS member. The legal effect of that death was that it restored parental authority to the natural parent. And number three, the member actually instituted his natural parent as his dependent or beneficiary. So for those three reasons, the Supreme Court awarded the benefit to the natural mother. So again, the key term to expose, to give the examiner is non-discriminatory. Non-discriminatory. Pagdating sa SSS GSIS, take note of the following areas of questioning. Number one is coverage. Number two is benefits. Number three, beneficiaries. Tapos contributions, penalties, prescription. Those are the areas of engagement. Now, relative to coverage, what is the coverage of the SSS? Make a distinction between compulsory and voluntary. So, know who enjoy compulsory. Do not forget to include the employer. He is subject to compulsory SSS coverage. Now, what is the difference between compulsory coverage and voluntary coverage? Those who enjoy or who have compulsory SSS coverage are entitled to two sets of benefits. SSS benefits and employees compensation benefits. Two sets of benefits. Whereas those who have voluntary SSS coverage are entitled to SSS benefits only. So they cannot claim hospitalization benefit, rehabilitation benefit, cash income benefit, funeral. These are easy benefits. Okay? They are given to those with compulsory SSS coverage. Take note of CAFGO. These are the people who do not have SSS coverage. C stands for purely casual. Yun yung tanong noong 2014, si Lando. Yun yung tanong noong 2014. A stands for Filipinos hired by alien vessels. So A is alien vessels, while outside Philippine territory. F is employees of foreign governments and international organizations. Take note of the exception. If these employers have administrative agreements with SSS, then their employees will enjoy voluntary SSS coverage. G are government. Why excluded? They belong to the other system, GSIS. And O is other employees excluded by the Social Security Commission. An example of an O employee who does not have SSS coverage is the worker of a legitimate job contractor. Okay, so you have a principal, you have a legit JC, you have a worker. This worker has SSS coverage in relation to the job contractor. But in relation to the principal of JC, he has no SSS coverage. So do not compel the principal of a legit JC to report the latter's worker for SSS coverage. This is an example of O employee. So, CAFGO. So, ito, paborito ito, di ba? Binigay na si C, purely casual in 2014. Now, if 2014 was something like 2.5, remember that the coverage of labor law is very limited. And for that reason, inuulit-ulit nila, nire-recycle nila ang previous questions. And in fact, that is what Professor Dumondon means with his 20% rule. The 20 essay questions you will encounter this year will be repetitions of 20% of previous bar questions. And this is especially true to labor law because of its limited scope. So imagine ilang provisions, articles lang ang PD4 to 317 as compared to the thousands in civil law, diba? So expect may recycle dyan. Nag-recycle ito. So 2014, involving a gardener in the person of Lando might be repeated. Kaya lang, instead of 2.5, baka gawin ng 5%. Why? Because the examiner might combine 82, 82, and 10361 or the Kasambahay Act. Okay? And how would he do that? Same facts, no? Lando. Okay. But he wants you to surface two things. Number one is purely casual. Okay? 8282 disqualifies C, purely casual. Under the Kasambahay Act, a person is a kasambahay if he is a relative of Commissioner Garci. Okay? Every morning, she or he greets you, hello Garci. He must be a or she must be a kasambahay. Your kasambahays are the traditional domestic helpers, laundry personnel. So, hello, diba? Gardeners, guard, cooks, yaya, hello, Garci. You exclude family drivers because they are regular employees. So if the examiner will give you the driver of Delima, you remember him? Dayan, no? Hindi siya domestic, no? Hindi siya domestic. Although he ministers to the personal comforts. Basta hindi siya, What's the importance of knowing this? Pag tinanggal si Dayan, will you, and your finding is that his dismissal is illegal. Okay. Will you give him earned salaries and 15 days pay by way of indemnity? Answer, no. Okay. Because he is no longer domestic, you will give him reinstatement and wages. So yun yung importance of knowing that. Anyway, Lando is GAR. However, even if you have hello Garci, you do not have a kasambahay if the engagement of the person is sporadic or occasional only. Sporadic or occasional. Okay. Or if the engagement of that fellow is under a foster family arrangement. So ito yung key terms na which the examiner would want to see. Kasi si examiner, don't tell me he will give up UAAP. Manunood pa rin yan. Don't tell me he will give up his golf. Maglalaro pa rin yan. Don't tell me he will give up his paramour. Makikipag-date pa rin yan. So while watching UAAP, nag-check, babasahin ba niya? No, he will just be looking for key terms. So pag nakita niya si sporadic, occasional, 100 ka na. Okay? Okay ka na sa kanya. So itong sinasabi natin, keep your answers short, but take note that the examiner would want to see key terms, key phrases. Okay? So, itong si Lando, GAR siya, di ba? GAR. So, looks like you have a kasambahay. Okay? And if you have a kasambahay, he must be entitled to SSS coverage because one of the rights of a kasambahay under 10361 is SSS coverage. PhilHealth. Okay? The other right is, of course, the right to be loved by you, especially if she's beautiful. Why? Because one of her rights is right to pag-ibig. Right to pag-ibig. You ask Dean Pokis. Looks like you have a GAR. Okay? You have a kasambahay with right to SSS coverage. But take note that his engagement is sporadic or occasional. So he is not really a kasambahay. So he has no SSS coverage. So, C, purely casual, 2.5. Okay? Sporadic, occasional, another 2.5. Kaya sabi ko, the possibility is always there. Okay? Uulitin, pero dadagdagan ng 103.61. Kaya yung 2.5 naging 5%. 5%. Okay? So that's for coverage. That's for coverage. Let's go to beneficiaries. Who are the beneficiaries of an SSS member? There are two types of beneficiaries, primary and secondary. Under primary, you have spouses and all kinds of children. But take note of the qualifications of this primary or of these people in order to be considered as primary beneficiaries. For spouses, there are two requisites. Number one, legal. Number two, living with the member. Legal and living with the member. For children, they must be below 21, unemployed, unmarried. Tatlo. Okay, tatlo. Secondary are parents who are wholly dependent on the SSS member. Parents. No qualification, as I said a while ago. Take note of this case. It is a recent case, not yet given in the bar. The Signy, Yolanda Signy versus SSS case. In this case, there was an SSS member, let's call him X, who was married to A, with whom he had a child. Never mind the child because he predeceased X. Wifey abandoned X to cohabit with BF. Nakipag-jub-jub kay Y. And that explains why there was a B paramour. Okay. You pronounce paramour as paramore. You check. Why? Because a paramour is one who always asks for more money. Paramore. With whom X had children. Child 1, child 2. So quits, eh? Quits. May kajugjug si A, may kajugjug din si X, quits. But remember that X was a Filipino. So hindi pwedeng quits, kailangan quits. That explains the presence of C, second paramour with whom X had children also. Okay? Then X died. When an SSS member dies, pag-claim na rin yung mga kanang death claim, di ba? And that was exactly what happened in Yolanda Signy versus SSS. The first to surface was YP, A. But she was disqualified by the SSS. Why? Because she might have been the legal spouse, but she was not living with the member. Why? Nakipag-cohabit kay Y. Okay? So na-disqualified. Next to surface was B, first paramour. She presented a marriage contract. Unfortunately for her, SSS made a verification, discovered that the document was spurious. It was fabricated in Cebu. So on that basis, she was disqualified. Unfaced, she went to A, who gave her a waiver, went back to SSS to claim death benefits. But she was still disqualified. Why? Because of the prior disqualification of A. You cannot transmit by way of waiver or SPA something that you do not have. Diba? Na-disqualify na. Besides, there is a non-transferability provision in 8282. SSS benefits cannot be transferred to third parties via waivers, via SPAs. Hindi pwede. So disqualified, she assisted her children to claim the benefit. But those children were also disqualified. Why? Because at that time, they were already beyond 21, above 21. So take note of the qualifications for children below 21, unmarried, unemployed. Next to claim were the children of X with his second paramour, and they were the ones who got the benefit. And all those who were disqualified questioned the award. Allegedly, even those children were disqualified. Why? Because they were not living with X. They were not living with X. Supreme Court said, qualified. entitled. Why? Because living with is not a qualification for children. It is only a qualification for spouses. So please take note of that. Sydney versus SSS. Not yet given in the bar. So I think this is the most beautiful source of a question on beneficiaries. Sometime not so long ago, there was a bar examiner who gave a very wonderful question on SSS. Parang na-predict niya yung Sydney versus SSS. Facts of the bar problem. SSS member was Pascual. Pascual had a wife, let's call her Wifey, and they had a child, let's call her Muning. The bar examiner transferred Pascual to Bontoc, who is from Baguio here. The place where Tado met his death, yung Florida bus accident, doon. Tinransfer ni bar examiner si Pascual to that place. In his absence, it was his father who took care of his young family. While in Bontoc, Pascual met Juliana Abay, let's call her Julie. They fell in love. They made jug-jug, resulting in Pascualito. Okay, resulting in Pascualito. Then the examiner sent Pascual back home to Manila. Okay, kumatok, inopen, na-surprise. Okay, because there were 2 minors already. Whereas he left 1 only. Yeah, 2 years back. So he asked his wife, sino yan? Baby natin. Anak mo siya, sabi niya. Sabi ni Pascual, di ba I look like Dean Divina? Oo naman, pogi-pogi mo eh. How come the child looks like Dean Bokis? He looks different. Hindi ko siya baby. So after making serious calculations, he was convinced that the second child was not his child. So he banished Wifey and the 2 minors. After that, the bar examiner killed him. Ang tanong, who are the beneficiaries of Pascual? Who are the beneficiaries of Pascual? Pag ganun ang tanong ulit, okay? Primary and then secondary, di ba? Primary, spouse, tapos children. Then secondary, parents, di ba? Okay. Let's go back to primary, spouses. Ilan ang babae ni Pascual? 2, si Wifey at saka si Julie. Okay. Let's start with Wifey. Beneficiary ba siya? Legal spouse, di ba? But was she living with Pascual? No, she was banished because of her crime, di ba? Okay. What about the second woman, Julie? Beneficiary ba siya? Requisites. Legal, living with. Maski ba living with, hindi siya legal wife, so not a beneficiary. Let's go to the children. How many children? 3. The child that he left behind 2 years back, beneficiary ba niya? Okay. Less than 21, unmarried, unemployed. Pasok? Beneficiary, primary. The second child was the mysterious child, the mystery child. Okay. Beneficiary ba niya? Below 21, unmarried, unemployed, di ba? Beneficiary niya, di ba? No. Kasi hindi niya anak yun. Hindi niya anak yun. Anak siya ni Dean Pokis. Remember that? Anak ni Dean Pokis yun. So hindi siya beneficiary ni Pascual. Third child is Pascualito. Below 21? Yes. Unmarried? Yes. Unemployed? Yes. Anak ba siya ni Pascual? Yes. Anak niya kay Judy. Okay. So, tapos na sa primary, go to secondary. Ilan ang parents nun? Father. Was he wholly dependent on Pascual? No. In fact, he was the one supporting the family of Pascual when he was away, making jug-jug with Judy. So, hindi siya. Okay. So, ganun ang pag-treat sa beneficiaries. Let's go to benefits. Ang tinanong sa bar, maternity benefits. Okay, so wala pang yes. Ang tanong sa bar, ito siguro ang pinakamahirap on SSS. How do you compute the maternity benefits of a member? How do you compute the maternity benefits of a member? Letter A. Letter B. Would your computation be the same if you are computing sickness benefits? Since binigay na ang computation, okay, or formula, is possible na ulitin. So, maternity benefits tayo, okay? You determine the semester of contingency. There are 2 semesters in a year, first sem and second sem. First sem starts in January, it ends in June. Second starts in July, it ends in December. You take note of 3 important terms. Number 1 is average monthly salary credit. Average monthly salary credit. Number 2 is average monthly salary credit, average daily salary credit, and semester. Ito yung mga gustong makita ni examiner sa notebook sa answer niya. Okay? So again, 3 important terms. Average monthly salary credit, average daily salary credit, and semester. How do you compute the maternity benefits of a member? Determine the semester of contingency. Contingency means natural delivery, miscarriage, or cesarean section. How do you spell cesarean? C-A. C-A-E-S-A-R-E, not I. R-E-A-N. Sometimes C-E only. Okay? Determine the semester of contingency. Example, nanganak March. So, what is the sem of contingency? First semester, di ba? Then, you count 12 months backwards from the start of the semester of contingency. 12 months backwards. During this period,